Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I'm always grateful. Macro thoughts, the big thought that's happened subsequent to me writing this podcast is that the Bank of England did not cut rates. Expectations it was for 80% expectations that they would, and you've seen sterling rally very sharply. It's now at 133.59 versus 127.99, which is the low from last week. In the past 30 years, global government debt has returned 576%, which is a pretty extraordinary number. Most of that must have surely come this year. We spent the weekend at the Fairmont Mara. I did a couple of interviews with Moshe, who's the general manager. Do take a look at a small 6-minute video, his thoughts on the tourism industry, interspersed with some of the Fairmont Mara property itself. Notch, who's the king of the Mara, the Marsh Pride, one that was filmed by the BBC, pretty handsome and sort of indomitable type of lion. We came across him actually as we were entering the Mara on Saturday, and he was courting his lady. Anthony tells me that ostriches never ever bury their heads in the sand, and I thought that was quite interesting. I like this. Doesn't she look like a subway superhero, the kind that controls the earth under the subway and makes it shift form? Now, returning to it, I've occasionally had a nightmare where during the dream I realize all my teeth have fallen out. And I've had it for a number of years. It keeps coming back, it disappears, and comes back. And I actually do grind my teeth, so it's based on that. So visits to the dentist, as the dentist notices, are fraught with remembered dreams of being toothless and all sorts of paranoia. Furthermore, the moment the clean, bright white lights are turned on and I see the injection, which is always huge, and I cannot get the movie Marathon Man out of my mind. Have you seen it? If you haven't, just watch this clip. Is it safe? And it's from the film Marathon Man, 1976 suspense thriller film about a graduate student and obsessive runner in New York who is drawn into a mysterious plot involving his globe-trotting brother, his European girlfriend, and an infamous Nazi war criminal in hiding, Laurence Olivier, directed by John Schlesinger. Watch that video, but I'll just read you the transcript. Cézanne, who is the dentist stroke war criminal. Is it safe? Is it safe? Babe, you're talking to me? Cézanne, is it safe? Is what safe? Is it safe? I don't know what you mean. I can't tell you if something's safe or not, unless I know specifically what you're talking about. Cézanne, is it safe? Tell me what the it refers to. Is it safe? Yes, it's safe. It's very safe. It's so safe you wouldn't believe it. Is it safe? No, it's not safe. It's very dangerous. Be careful. Laughs, but in a scared manner. Cézanne takes his dental explorer and mouth mirror and approaches Babe. Relax, relax, relax. Come on, open. Okay. Babe opens his mouth. Come on. Cézanne explores Babe's mouth with a dental instrument. That hurt? I know, I should think it would. You should take better care of your teeth. You have hits the cavity again. Quite a cavity here. Is it safe? Look, I told you I can't. Cézanne stabs the probe into the nerve. Carl holds Babe's head again. You think he knows? Earhart, of course he knows. It's being very stubborn. Cézanne then opens a small bottle of oil of cloves. Oh, please, please, please don't. No, it's okay. Cézanne applies the bottle of oil of cloves to kill the pain. So not remarkable. Simple oil of cloves, and how amazing the results. Life can be that simple. Laurence Olivier, of course, is Cézanne. I'll put up a photograph of him yesterday, of course, after this serious dental work, and then an early evening appointment with the incredibly erudite Stefano Dejac, who'd been inviting me over to taste some of his Italian wine. He's the ambassador of the European Union, and regaled me with incredibly deep insights from Burundi to the history of Europe, from Somalia through jihadism, and all washed down with some incredibly fine Italian red wine. By the time I got home, I was spinning. Political reflections. Binali Yildirim said in a televised address Wednesday that Turkey is expanding its circle of friends, adding, "I am sure we will return our ties with Syria to normal. We need it." My conclusions are that is of itself an incredible volte-face. Erdogan is reconciled with Bibi Netanyahu, Vladimir, and now Bashar, all in the space of a week. One suspects that some of Erdogan's erstwhile allies have taken a fearful beating, probably inflicted by Vladimir. I'll put up a photograph of Erdogan at an army mess. ISIS confirms the death of its Minister of War, Abu Omar al-Shishani. And then I went to this quote from Paris Review, Larissa Volokonsky: "The way we are is because of our religion." These attacks bear the hallmarks of ISIL, said Brennan. He's the head of the CIA, talking about Saudi Arabia. The explosion struck in Jeddah, Qatif, and the securities headquarters in the holy city of Medina, an attack Brennan described as unprecedented. Benjamin Netanyahu, of course, has been making some moves of his own. They hosted the foreign minister Sameh Shukri in their Jerusalem home, watching the Euro 2016 final. He's been reconciling with Egypt. Here in Africa, he met with African leaders in Uganda. Tour was more than symbolic. Participants said Netanyahu travelled with 80 men and women representing some 50 businesses and was well prepared to assist them, according to Yosef Abramovich, CEO of Energia Global Capital, a Jerusalem-based solar energy and social development enterprise. He was also the first Prime Minister of Israel to visit Ethiopia ever. He met with the Ethiopian President Mulatu Teshomi, invited me to see the lion and the lioness in the palace garden. Rather good photograph as well. Theresa May has met the Queen, that was yesterday, and has become Britain's new Prime Minister. Plead for national and party unity in a maiden speech as PM, vowed to govern for struggling working class families rather than a privileged few. Back to remain in the referendum, handed top cabinet post to Leave campaigners, sprung a major surprise by making Boris Johnson the Foreign Secretary, an astonishing comeback by the man who was the front runner to succeed David Cameron before being pushed out of the Tory leadership. David Davis, a Eurosceptic former Europe minister, landed the key job of Brexit minister. She's looking to honour her pledge that Brexit means Brexit. Philip Hammond moved from the Foreign Office to the Treasury. The man he succeeded as Chancellor, George Osborne, was sacked, as was Michael Gove. Speaking outside Downing Street earlier, Miss May promised to lead a one-nation government, boost social mobility and tackle burning injustice. She described her mission to make Britain a country that works for everyone. Boris Johnson is, of course, an undiplomatic pick as Britain's top diplomat, but I think it's excellent political triangulation from Theresa May. Boris Johnson led the successful campaign to get Britain out of the European Union, appointed Foreign Secretary. Earlier this year, he accused President Obama of disliking Britain's imperial legacy because of his part Kenyan ancestry. He'll take control of a ministry with diminished powers. May has appointed a separate minister to take charge of negotiating the Brexit and created a new department for international trade. If you're thinking about giving someone a job they can burn up in and yet do not do any damage to the government's electoral fortunes, that's the one. Tim Bale, politics professor. His role will now be a glorified trade promotion and PR. First job in government for Johnson, who finished his second term as London Mayor earlier this year, once compared Hillary Clinton to a sadistic nurse in a mental hospital. An editorial when Johnson was in charge of The Spectator described President George W. Bush as a cross-eyed Texan warmonger who epitomizes the arrogance of American foreign policy. Johnson also has to build bridges beyond the US and EU. He referred to Africans as piccaninnies with watermelon smiles in a newspaper column in 2002, for which he apologized 6 years later. He's also compared President Putin to Dobby the house elf in the Harry the Potter films and called him a ruthless and manipulative tyrant. I seem to remember this is Theresa May, I seem to remember the last time he did a deal with the Germans, he came back with 3 nearly new water cannons, she said about him, because he was meant to import counter-crowd equipment from the Germans. If Johnson remained outside the government, people could point and say it would be better under him. She's protected herself from a likely rival. In fact, she has triangulated him. Nick Clegg called him a Donald Trump with a thesaurus. Have a look at this tweet from Ian Bremmer about what he's previously said. Trump apparently asked Condoleezza Rice to be his running mate, but she wasn't interested. In one widely circulated cartoon, the Philippines are depicted as a marionette manipulated by Uncle Sam, while Japan applauds from behind a screen. That's Chinese papers. Germany sold 10-year bunds with a negative yield for the first time. Euro has had a pop to 111.50. Dollar index surely lower than where it was at 96.21 this morning. Dollar yen 105.62, big move. Swissy 0.9836. The pound 133.63 after no change decision. The Australian dollar, let me take a quick look. Can't say it down there, sorry. Australian dollar, that's 0.7640, India rupee 66.975, South Korean won 1139.51, the Rial 326.57, Egyptian pound 8888, and the Rand must be firmer than where it was this morning at 14.47. UK inflation and interest rates over the last 20 years. Thank you, Jamie McGeever. I'll put up a 1 month sterling chart, big spike, it's really rallied, hasn't it? Aussie spike, higher since May the 2nd. Crazier and crazier. Nintendo up 18.5%, taking gains from this time last week to over 70%. Gold, let's take a look at that. That's been coming off 13.25. Crude oil in New York, $46.14. I'm not bullish about crude oil. Gold, I think, has been slightly undone by this return to risk. Interesting article in the Daily Maverick, the simple genius of Zimbabwe's This Flag protest and the man who started it. The day that he lost it, the day he'd finally had enough, Pastor Evan Mwawire was sitting at his desk at his office in Harare. 39-year-old Zimbabwean is a professional master of ceremonies. His church doesn't pay him a salary, but work has been scarce in this tough economic climate. I'll be honest with you, the day it happened was a really tough day for me. I was thinking of ways I could get more money for school fees or I could borrow money, but it just wasn't happening. I was packing to go home. And he started this big response, this flag, saying, this flag, if I've crossed the line, then I believe it was long overdue. I'm not a politician, I'm not an activist, just a citizen. Look, the strike call wasn't that successful by some accounts, but the bottom line is it feels very fragile. The economics now are in a death spiral, and this could morph into a tsunami. Riek Machar left Juba not seeking war, his spokesman said. We had to move away from our base in Juba to avoid further confrontation. He is around the capital, I cannot say the location. Interesting article in the LSE about how Brexit Africa will lose a voice at the EU table but gain the best of both worlds. A very rose-tinted perspective on it, but a valid one. South African all share up 4.18% this year. Dollar rand firm, I'll put up a 6-month chart, key resistance 14.20. Egyptian EGX 30 up 7.91% this year. Nigerian all share up 0.31% this year. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index down 10.43% so far this year. In Burundi, gunmen shot dead a lawmaker with the East African Legislative Assembly in the capital Bujumbura. Hafsa Mossi was killed by unidentified assailants in the city's eastern Mutanga district at about 10:30 a.m. on Wednesday. It's not looking good there again. Moody's, Kenya's strong growth and improving governance to help fuel corporate investment expansion. I attended that conference this morning. I spoke at it as well. Talking about Kenya's buoyant economic growth, stable business environment, growing consumer demand from its emerging middle class, among the factors driving expansion and investment among non-financial companies in the East African country's current stable political and legal environment make Kenya an attractive EA hub, East African hub for companies, which is credit positive for Kenyan corporates and also for those looking to expand into the country. Moody's forecast that Kenya GDP will reach 5.7% in 2016 before rising to around 5.9% in 2017. Potential for political instability around the 2017 election poses the main risk to corporate growth in Kenya. Interesting report, do take a look, and very much appreciated being invited to attend that function. I wrote about some of these points. Kenya and East Africa on the up as the rest of sub-Saharan Africa slumps. And I've been saying for a while that Kenya and East Africa looks like a bright star in what increasingly looks like a darkening sub-Saharan African sky. Nairobi all share down 4.48% year to date, but turned 0.22% higher yesterday. NSE 20 still at a 50-month low, down 10.51% year to date. Standard Chartered had a big day yesterday. It's up, when you account for the bonus, 22.97% this year, and that's not including the dividend. The NSE looked constructive yesterday. It might have given up some of it, but just to touch on a few points. The Eurobond is just a whisker below 2016 trading high at a yield of around 7.5%. Safaricom was up 0.29% yesterday. Kenya Airways was down 2.38%, notwithstanding the news that they got another 10 billion shillings from the Treasury via China's Afreximbank. Standard Chartered, really strong, one of the few banks, PLC, one of the few banks in the developed world that has posted a positive return for year to date. And Standard Chartered here has more to run. It's a beneficiary of the deposit flight to quality and nimble and sophisticated under Limine. KCB, which has been egregiously oversold, rebounded 2.34% yesterday as well. Once again, thank you for stopping by.